genuinely your thoughts control your life. Like what you think consume you.
Yeah.
And if you can't control what you're thinking in your head and you can't take control of where the direction of your mind is going, it will genuinely take over your life and you'll have zero control and everything will spiral.
I'm in New York. I'm walking by you on the street. And I say, hey, what do you do for a living? What's going to be your answer?
Fitness. I teach at Equinox in Miami, and I teach at a smaller gym in Fort Lauderdale, specializing in like smaller, low impact movements, so like bar, Pilates. And yeah, I feel like that's my life. It's what I want to do ultimately. I feel like I'm just in the early stages of it still, even being 27, but like the heights that you can go. Yeah. If I was 9 years old and you told me that I was going to be in the fitness industry, I would totally tell you you're a liar.
What would you think you were going to do?
I don't know what I wanted to do when I was a kid. Probably be like a fashion designer, which is still something that I love clothes, but I can't draw.
Do you think you'll be like doing this till you're like 50? Like my grandma currently still teaches at Lifetime.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah?
Like I want this to be embedded in me and like my identity. Like you can apply all the work. You can have all these, books and meditate and have all these tactics that are going to help you enhance your life and your mental. But if you're not moving your body and you're not challenging yourself, you're not growing and you're not going to be able to ultimately, it's so many factors in moderation that bring us to the things that we want in life. That's the discipline, the consistency, and the mind-body connection, meditation and taking those practices of what you learn when you're reading books and just feeding your mind. You also have to nourish and fuel your body. It's one temple.
Do you feel like a part of it is like purpose? Like that you're like impacting other people? Like I always thought about jobs when I turned like 18 of like, I don't like doing anything in life in which if I was gone, then nobody would ever know.
Yeah.
Like I feel like if you didn't show up to class for 3 days, like people would be like, where's Maria? Like I should check on her. And I think being in any career lifestyles like that, I feel like it gives you purpose to impact other people. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Like even, I don't know, it's like we sleep on our own potential so much, which is something that is huge for me. Like I have a really hard time being complimented. Like I'm kind of just like, oh, like, thank you. Like sometimes don't know how to take it, but really, you should own everything about you. Like, your positives, your talents, your skill sets, like, what you bring to the world, what you bring to the table and everything that you do and every relationship that you have with the people that you instruct, especially. So like going to different gyms and being around different types of people, because the people at Equinox versus the gym in Fort Lauderdale, they're different types of crowds. You know what I mean? Which is so fun. That's so great about the fitness industry is you can bounce around and be around so many different types of people, but we're all championing one thing is getting healthier, moving our bodies, like pushing ourselves, clearing our mind. Like it's movement and working out is different to everybody, but I feel like to me it's like an outlet to release all the things that, going on in my head all day, the stresses of my day. Like it's a great way to just kind of calm my mind and just focus on bettering myself and pouring into myself.
When somebody is like looking at a fitness instructor, looking at it and going, wow, I really like aspire to do that. What are like the actual real life steps that go into it?
Yeah, so for me personally, I got my bar certification first. So I was a dancer. It just felt like the most natural way to kind of get into the industry because I knew like the movements, it's rooted in ballet. So I got my certification at Studio Bar in Grand Rapids, which is, it's not here anymore, but it's kind of like a Pure Bar, it's a franchise. And that was a pretty extensive process and you kind of learn in increments. So, I mean, in a workout you have, your warm up, your thigh work, your booty work, your core work, all different types of stuff. And you kind of broke down the class. So it was just pretty extensive, like test outs and stuff, but you just have to really find a place. I mean, you can go online right now and get, a certification, find out how to become a personal trainer. But I took the route of kind of getting certified in bar, which is very unique. It's a specific type of movement that you have to understand, like the placements and how to speak to, motivating them and what they're actually getting out of the workout, because it's different than lifting weights. So it was a pretty long process, and it was grueling because at the time I was working a job too. So, you make time for the things that you want, you do the things that you want, that fuel inside of you. And at the time it just felt so right. But yeah, it's doable for everybody. I think the most overcoming part for me was the fact that to test out, you had to teach and take the class at the same time. So I would have to film these videos and I would have to be coaching myself, like I'm speaking to a class, but then I would have to actually do the movement at the time. So I'd be dying and I'd be filming it over and over because I'm messing up, you know, what I need to say, or I'm messing up in the movement, and then it's just, you know, hours of practice. And you have to know how to count music. You have to know how to cue them on the music. So making sure that the class flows really effortlessly, it just makes it more of an experience, which is what I'm going for. I don't want to just go in there and be like, okay, you know, do 10 push-ups and jumping jacks and, you know, some core workout. Like I want to actually let them know what they're working while they're working. So learning the anatomy of the body, learning what this movement is toning and sculpting for them, you know, how to dig deeper into the movement. So there's ways that you can take your practice and elevate it, but it's all about just starting, like finding a gym. In Fort Lauderdale, the gym that I found, I just sent her an email. I actually called. It's family owned, and I think at the time I talked to the mom, and she was like, yeah, we're always taking instructors, like shoot an email to the owner. So sent her an email, and she called me same day and was like, all right, I want you to come in for an audition. And they teach all kinds of stuff. Like they teach HIIT classes, strength training, like it's a wide variety, bar, Pilates, yoga. So it's a really great one-stop shop for a lot of people to come. And they didn't really have they have a couple like bar girls, but no Pilates, Pilates fusion, Pilates mat, which is what I specialize in. So being able to bring a new flavor to the gym and building my own class. Like I see all the same faces at my classes. You know, I obviously have a lot of new ones every now and again, but it's so nice to have like those people come for my class. They come because what I can provide, and they're learning from it and it's bettering them. So, you know, I walk away every day feeling so empowered to keep going and championing what my goals are within this industry, because I'm seeing firsthand the benefits, or just even getting a compliment, like what a great class. Like that was so challenging. Like, you know, people that take a Pilates class will be like, this is the hardest class in for the entire gym, the entire organization. Like it is so hard because you just don't normally use those muscles. So it's just nice to, I don't know, feel like you're doing something that has purpose.
Do you feel like in doing all that stuff, like is it nice to have like your grounding in there? Because I know like Amani was on the Lions and now he's on the Giants. So like in traveling, like is it nice of like having a lifestyle, I don't want to say like it's uprooted, but that's constantly evolving and changing and like.
Absolutely. And I think for me, like it's kind of nice because I started Equinox in Michigan, then bounced to Miami. And then now I'm going to kind of go back and forth just between Miami and Jersey. And there's the Equinox world in New York is so intense. So having the opportunity to be able to be in a position with where life is taking us to teach at, you know, potentially teach at a gym in New York City, like at the Equinox where it first started, like that would be a huge milestone for me and an awesome opportunity just in general. So you kind of just have to embrace where you're going. Like a lot of times it doesn't make sense. Like you're like, oh my gosh, I'm moving again. Like there's a lot of stresses and a lot of factors that are overwhelming, and it's something my brother tells me all the time. He's like, you are in such a unique stage of your life that is only going to last for so long. You like support him through this and just, you know, find your way, make sure that you always have yourself in it, but life will flow wherever you go. You know, you make shit happen where you go. So it's all about who you are.
He's not rooted in that being his identity.
Yeah, no,
like
not
even
at all.
like he doesn't like that's not his end all be all.
Right. I mean, it's hard though because think about it, like playing as a kid, as an adolescent, going to high school,
all he's done his whole
college.
life.
Like he's never had a Christmas off, like New Year's.
He's dedicated his entire life to doing this.
Is so accustomed to having 6 months of his life consumed with something so grueling, not only physically but mentally. So. I think it's just, like I said, you know, you got to know yourself. You got to be able to lay the groundwork, the framework for what you want in your life. You know the pros and cons or what's going to happen when you make poor decisions. So you have to consciously be attentive to the decisions that you're making. But yeah, I feel like you saying like it's not rooted in his identity. Absolutely, it's not. He does not. I'm Amani, the football player. Like he has so many other different levels of who he is that he taps into actively. So it's not just all that he does and not all that he's known for as well.
What do you do after you work out? Like what is there to do in Miami?
So it just kind of depends on like what my workload is. But on like an average day, I kind of pick and choose when I want to work out based on meetings. And then when I'm done, I always get like a smoothie or I make a smoothie at home, make some food, fuel, practice what I preach, and then get into my work. I try to find a lot of time. I have a lot of like alone time. I feel like I haven't found like a really big community in Florida just yet, just because I've moved there so recently.
Does it feel better than being here, like being in Florida?
It's just a different experience. I feel like, I mean, I'm a Midwest girl through and through. I love the Midwest. I love the Four Seasons. I love the transition from
The actual
seasons.
Four Seasons, not the hotel, though, right? Just so people don't get confused.
Yes, the 4 seasons, the weather changing. I like the transition from summer to fall. I think being down there, it's August. I'm like, oh, like the wind should be getting crisper. Like the air should feel a little cooler. And obviously it's like blistering hot.
Yeah.
But obviously it has its pros and cons.
I actually don't know how we met each other.
Yeah, I don't know either. But we could just, I mean.
What's the first memory that you have?
I remember when I worked for SheFit. And I mean, we have all sorts of mutual friends.
Yeah.
So like, we always knew of each other. But I don't remember what happened, but I think you were on social media and we were texting about something and then we were just like talking about spirituality and just like all different kinds of like, I don't know, topics that I felt like I was newly interested in and there wasn't a lot of people that I feel like were.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was like a connection in that way.
I think I read The Alchemist because Kaylani kept saying to read that book, The Alchemist, and I kept seeing it pop up every single where. And so I read that, and that was like 2017, I think. And I think at the time was when I was like, oh, like there's so much more to life. Like I kind of got to like switch it up and find like a more like deep, meaningful. You getting a call?
No, sorry.
LeBron?
I thought I felt a buzz. And I was like, oh no, let me turn my phone off.
So I think my first memory I think of you was one time we all were at U of M.
No.
You know what I'm talking about?
No.
We were all at U of M.
Were we at the house on State Street?
Yes, we were at that house. And we were all in the house. And me and you, like I literally seen you in so many rooms. You were literally there and you acted like you had
That's not
never
true. I
seen me
think you
before.
did that to me.
No, I didn't. We were literally there and I'm like, I literally saw this
I might
girl,
not
like,
have knew
last
who you were
week
because
in,
I
like,
don't
your class.
remember.
Yeah,
we
but,
didn't
like,
have a class at that time.
how many people go from Grand Valley to Ann
Okay,
Arbor
maybe, but
and,
at the same time, I didn't know you, so I probably was just like, and I lived with like my boyfriend at the time, so I don't know. You were there with other people.
If roles reversed, I probably wouldn't have spoken to you either. But
Yeah,
I think
you
like
wouldn't
the
have.
ego and me of like, how old were we? Like 17, 18?
Yeah, very
I think I was
impressionable.
just like, what the fuck? Like I literally just saw this girl. She's gonna like be. I was like, all right, well, she's not gonna talk to me. I'm not gonna talk to her.
I don't think I really knew who you were till I think sophomore year, because I think our class was sophomore year, right?
The one that we had, that writing one?
The news writing, yeah. I think it was sophomore year. And by that time, I'd built all my friendships. Like, you know, I met a lot of new people, joined DZ.
Yeah.
And then you obviously had a lot of your friends. And, like, I feel like a lot of people that went to GB were from the east side.
Yeah.
And a lot of people knew each other.
Yeah, it really was a small world.
So I definitely, like, knew you by acquaintance and, like, knew who you were in passing. But we never spoke. And when I seen you, for the most part, you would never speak to me. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to speak to him. Like, I don't even know him. I'm not going to go out of my way. But I remember we always had to wait in class because the class before us.
Right, we had to wait in the hallway.
So we'd all just kind of, and we knew a lot of people in that class.
Yeah,
there was
we
a
really
lot
did.
of people in that class. Maury would have his braids and his
That
Louis
is my highlight,
Vuitton backpack. And you had your motorcycle. And he was just in this full, like...
And I had no depth to me whatsoever. Like, there was no, like...
Which is so crazy, too, because obviously we weren't, like... We were acquaintances and we knew each other, but we weren't friends at that state. So then later on, fast forward to post-college, when we actually do become friends. I don't know, I just think it's interesting how it kind of comes full circle, the fact that, like, we both tapped into, you know, trying to better ourselves, having shifts in our life to pour into ourselves better. You know, stand for things, like not be so superficial. I feel like there's a lot of pressures to going through college and you're just like getting to know yourself. You know what I mean? I feel like my transition from college to now is like night and day. I feel like people have said things before, like probably same as you, like she's standoffish, but I feel like being reserved sometimes gives off a vibe that you're standoffish when you're kind of just like in your own worlds, which I've always been a more naturally reserved person. I feel like I've always had an intimate friend, like group of friends, like individual friendships. I never really had like a big girl gang. Like I never had like a big group of friends. It was always kind of like individual. So a lot of what I did, and I love doing everything alone. I love doing that even throughout college. But yeah, so I feel like people are kind of like, maybe they didn't know me, they perceived based on social media. And I feel like in college I kind of perceived myself to be a little bit different than maybe I even was.
Almost 10 years later, which is kind of crazy.
Absolutely.
That's like 10 years ago that we've come, like, now we're like 35.
It feels like it at times, honestly. But yeah, no, I think that just the evolution. I remember there was like one pivotal moment for me when I turned 24 where it was my 24th birthday. And I was just like, I want to make a change in my life. Like, I don't love the person I am. Not necessarily because I was doing anything wrong, because I just wanted more for myself. Like, I feel like we sleep so much on our own potential and we're so fearful of things that we have never done. So we don't even know why we're fearful. And that was a big part of me. It was like I had all these goals and aspirations and ideas and things that I wanted to bring to fruition, but I wasn't eat, breathing, and sleeping that mentality. So once I started actually putting the action forth and working on myself, it was probably about maybe a year in to really kind of like tapping into who Maria is, that I decided that I really wanted to get into teaching bar and, you know, take over my health and work out, which wasn't an easy process. It's such a mental thing. So
I think you had to like at some point like pop out and go somewhere.
Do something else, make a change.
That's why it's fun when you like send me like the picture of you and Amani in Italy. I'm like, that like genuinely makes me so happy that you're just like out like living life.
Yeah, it's
all
a
this
blessing
fun stuff.
for sure. It's a different, you know, I feel like I moved to, because I met him in Grand Rapids when I was still living in Grand Rapids, and then obviously was doing things, you know, I got the certification, then I moved back to Detroit and started teaching at Equinox there. So just kind of taking different steps in my career, and it happened to coexist with his life, which made it feel so much more like it had purpose and meaning behind what I was doing. I was transitioning from a job at the time, and just taking major life steps. So it was cool to kind of be with him during that journey and know that I kind of started and was rooted here. And, you know, the Maria that kind of pulled herself out of a dark place and, you know, reinvented myself and then kind of stepped into that next stage of life. So, yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's a different world now, being in Florida and kind of bouncing around a lot. There's obviously a lot of like pressures and different things that could totally, you know, I don't know, take you over. Right.
So I think that's always interesting that like you actually live that lifestyle now. Like you don't walk around with like it on your shoulder. Like I've never heard once that you tried to like use the statue. I almost said your husband. That you tried to use the statue of Amani to like to boost you up anywhere, like have that be your worth. But I feel like for so many people that's such an easy grab.
I'm glad that I give off that like individuality. I feel like there's an easy way to be like have your identity wrapped up into it.
Right.
Whereas like I like to pride myself in having my individuality, and you know, obviously there's levels to certain things. He's in the 1% of the world where at a young age he was able to have his talents and his skill sets take him to this next level and, you know, be a part of this like eclectic group of people. But, you know, for me, obviously I have to take, you know, a majority of the world has to take smaller steps to kind of get to what they want to. So, I mean, you're saying split a penthouse rent, like by no means is it like that, but of course if I had the means, absolutely, like I want to get to a level and a point where it's like, you know, I always want to work for what I have. I want the extras that I want in my life, like I want to be able to provide those for myself. I want to, you know, if I want to go out and buy something, like I don't want to ever feel bad, because I feel like there's just like, it might seem easy to just like swipe someone's card and get what you want and, you know, just coast by and you don't have to do anything, but it's another thing to know that you earned something and to know that you work really hard and you're passionate about what you do. So you know that you're in a space to be deserving of whatever it is that, you know, your heart desires at that moment. So it's easy to kind of get wrapped up in having your identity be, you know, with my boyfriend. And trust me, like there's moments in time where it's like, oh, this is challenging. Like, you know, this is so hard right now to have a job and to balance this, but, you know, it never caves in and comes to a point where it's like, okay, I'm going to quit my job and I'm just going to be a girlfriend. Like, that's not ever.
So when you're around people, is it diluted to you too? Like when
yeah,
you're like
you
in a
become
room,
like accustomed to, you know what I mean? It's, this is my life now. This is, you know, I had the opportunity to be around and, you know, this people that are friends with my boyfriend, you know what I mean? So.
And they're still like people. Like I feel like that's the thing me and AJ talk about.
Yeah.
Like I feel like people don't.
It's like not humanized. And I feel like we're from such a small town and we're from Michigan, you know what I mean? There's not a whole lot that goes on even in the bigger cities.
Yeah.
So, I mean, going out into the bigger cities, LA, New York, Miami, like, you know, submerging yourself into different, like, if you lived in New York or you lived in LA, I'm sure you'd run into celebrities all the time. So people that live there probably aren't as fazed by it versus people that live in Michigan in general. So that's an element that you have to obviously understand. But at the same time, I feel like, you know, I don't feel like I've ever really been like a star-struck type of person. And there's a lot of people that I don't know who they are. Yeah. So, you know, people know like, oh my God, did you know that's so-and-so? Or, you know.
For example, if I take a girl into a room with Drake,
yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
people
it's just
switch
kind of
up.
like,
they change when females around. They change when they're in certain settings. Like,
she's like laughing at every joke.
It's just like a known, it's a known thing. Like, people kind of let the liquor talk or the moment kind of speak for itself. But you kind of just like, there's people that can handle it and people that can't. And when you're know what you're built for and what you want for your life, it's kind of like you can't let the small stuff drown out like the purpose in your life and the goals for yourself. So you kind of just don't get fazed by the worldly things.
I always say to some degree, like the reason why stuff doesn't bother me is like at 15, Drake and Kevin Durant follow me on Twitter.
Yeah.
So I think the same thing with like the materialistic possessions. I don't think that it's not like never desired through my lifetime, but it's just that I phased through it earlier than most.
Yeah.
Would you agree? Like, does that make sense? Like,
for sure, like your experience to it at a younger age, so you kind of got used to it.
Yeah.
Like the Johnny Manziel documentary on Netflix. Did you watch it?
Yeah, I did watch it.
I didn't watch it, but I heard bits and pieces about it, so I can't say like verbatim. But
Yeah.
I just feel like even looking at his story, like so much talent, so much potential.
Right. Yeah, Drake literally like
he
put
was
him in a
hanging out with
song. He
Drake,
was
yeah.
in like everything.
So some people, you know, can't handle the pressures, or some people kind of get taken away by it, and it happens to a lot of people. And I think at some point or another, it's probably happened for a lot of people that first start to go and be immersed into different spaces where you think maybe you never would be. Right. But the world is so much smaller than you think, and it just takes one networking event, one time meeting a person, one time, you know, stepping out and taking, you know, choosing yourself, and, you know, I don't know.
But that's why the substance is so important. Though.
Right.
You like do it all, and you look back and you're like, oh shit, like I'm still depressed. Like, oh snap, like I still have no friends. And it like really like hits you hard. And I feel like that's what's so important about the substance. And like, it's easier, I mean, it's easier with anything, but it's so much easier to find when you don't have to, as opposed to when you're like at rock bottom. Like I always say, like, God forbid, but it's gonna happen that like, we're all gonna like lose our parents or like something like that. And I feel like when those big thing happens, like the Rolex doesn't matter, like the Louis Vuitton briefcase doesn't matter, like nothing else around you matters if like your inside is not up to par.
Absolutely. And I just feel like having the need to be surrounded by so much materialistic stuff, or, you know, being around people that have clout, like gaining clout from someone, and just status and fame and power. And I mean, everyone has a conscious choice and a conscious decision. So I just feel like, you know, you have to really know yourself, and I'm still learning myself every single day. Like that's something that I kind of champion every single day when I wake up. Like, how can I get to know myself a little bit better?
Yeah.
And I saw something recently, I don't know if I was like just scrolling on Pinterest or something, but it said that if you really want to get to know yourself, keep a notebook with you and just jot down random things all the time. And I started doing that, just things that I like, maybe things about my day that I didn't like. Sometimes I might use it as an outlet to kind of vent and get something off my chest or get something off my mind. Or some days it's a gratitude journal, and it's just whatever I want it to be. It might be a grocery list, like just kind of accumulating all of this different information about myself, my what I like and what I don't like, what hurts me, what feels good, moments of life where I was happy, moments where I might have been down, just documenting all of that, and then kind of keeping it there and looking at it as a reference if you need to, but you know, just kind of compiling all that information and just really keeping track of it. I feel like it's allowed me to kind of sit back and just take more time for myself, think about the joys, the small joys. I feel like that's where I'm at in my life right now, is like, okay, I want to go on a 2-minute walk and I want to listen to the same song on repeat because I really like it right now and it's beautiful to me. I like to look at and be submerged in like the beauty of the world. And obviously like a house is could be a materialistic thing, but you know, just appreciating, you know, the steps on the front door or like on the front porch and the road, it's paved so beautifully. Like just having those small moments of gratitude for just being in that present moment, I think has done a world of wonders to me, where like even what you're talking about, like I honestly don't even think about any of that. Or even like, I don't even really think about if the person next to me thinks that. Like if someone's, if I'm around someone and they're consistently talking about money and materialistic things or just stuff that I don't want to be surrounded with, it's almost like, okay, like that's, you know, no shade to them. That's just not a person that I'm going to have in my life at this moment. Like they, you know, they're on a different path, they're on a different journey.
I think like one of those can always send you those like daily meditation things. Like one of them always talks about like keeping consciousness alive in you. And I feel like that's what like the walks and everything like does for me. Like when I like find a moment in which like, I don't even know, like sometimes I'm like walking in Trader Joe's or just like by myself and I like hit like a patch of like, I stand out here sometimes, like if you look behind you, like for this past week, that blue sky has been like tripping me out because it's just so blue and so nice. And I feel like having like that consciousness alive in you is what like does everything. Like I saw this one quote and it was saying that consciousness is the universe experiencing itself through you. And I was like, that's so like beautiful. If like, if that's what it all is, if everything's like one like big like full spirit, then consciousness is essentially like the universe experiencing itself through a human body. And like that's why when you go into meditation, everything, it's so zen. It's because you're like it's a consciousness experiencing itself, which is kind of like tripping me out.
It's like being one with the world,
Right.
being one with everything around you, being one with the people around you. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like another big thing too is just like seeing yourself in other people, like having compassion,
Yeah.
like not being so quick to judge, which I know all of us are obviously guilty of in time to time. It's so quick to get frustrated with something or someone, but like you said, stopping, appreciating the sky, like appreciating small moments and just being conscious and aware of just exactly where you are in that moment, not letting anything else inflict that or just shadow your mind is so essential to having peace of mind, because genuinely your thoughts control your life. Like what you
100%.
think consume you.
Yeah.
And if you can't control what you're thinking in your head and you can't take control of where the direction of your mind is going, it will genuinely take over your life and you'll have zero control and everything will spiral because everything is madness in your head. Like you have to truly command your mind to be like, sit, like don't think about anything right now. I'm in this moment. You know, that's why the meditation that you gave me before we started, like just focusing on different body parts, being aware, like how is it hitting the chair? You know, what's on your fingertips? Like focus on your breath, your rib cage expanding as your lungs are breathing in. Like slowing down the mind is so essential because it's so easy to be drowned out by noise of the world. It's so noisy. You go on social media and it makes it 10 times worse.
Yeah.
So I feel like what you're saying, like the perception of materialistic things and people, it's almost like that's the perception of what's happening in the world right now. Like what's really going on, and social media controlling absolutely everything and people giving off false personas, living pseudo lives, but you know, flexing and doing things that we've all been wrapped up in doing at one point or another.
Right.
But, you know, choosing not to do it. And growth is such a non-linear thing.
Yeah.
Like there's ebbs and flows to everything. So just recognizing that.
Yeah.
And when you're in the flows, just being aware.
I even feel like I have like some days where like, and I do tell people all the time, I'm like, because people like think about it now, they're like, oh, you like meditate every day and you do this. And I'm like, but it's in moderation. Like I have some days where like, I haven't played a video game in like a year and a half. Like for the past like 3 days, I've been like playing video games. Yeah. And I'm like, I can do that because I know I'm not going to get sucked into it. Like it's the same thing as like going out or like being in Miami or something.
Yeah, everyone has their vices and things that they want to kind of splurge on or what's like decompression for them.
Right.
So just doing everything in moderation.
Anytime I meet somebody, and like one of like AJ's friends or something like that, like it's just nice to know, like even in stuff like that, there's like really genuine good
Humble,
people
good, yeah.
Who just happen to be like superstar athletes. Like,
and that's another thing with like humanizing it. Like people tend to dehumanize them because, you know.
Has that been weird for you to see like at games and stuff?
Yeah, it was super weird. Literally this Friday, he played. You know, I've gone to Lions Stadium since I've been with him. This is my third season with him. So seeing him in a Giants jersey at Ford Field with my family and like experiencing like walk on the field and just, I don't know, it was just like a level of like cool, calm and collected and like confident and just who he was. Like, especially with how his exit went, like I feel like you have to have a different level of like dog in you to be able to kind of, I don't know, just to withstand certain pressures and stuff. So I feel like it was such a cool moment for me to witness and I'm sure for him to experience and many more to come. But like you said, it could be over in the blink of an eye. So to always make sure that you're rooted in other areas of your life and invested well, you know, invested yourself well, your name well, and, you know, financially, the inevitable, so that you can take those next stages when and if that day comes. So just being prepared is what it's all about.
If this is a time capsule of your life, right?
Yeah.
And you look at this at like 70, what are you like telling yourself?
This podcast?
What are you telling yourself of like where you at in your life? Like what matters to you? Like where are your core values at? Like who are you at this current moment?
Oh wow, I would feel like I'm just getting started. Like really, like I'm just getting started. I'm just tapping into the potential that I have within myself. You know, life is all about so many different chapters. I'm sure there's so many ebbs and flows that I'm going to face, but nothing that's not going to make me stronger and come out on top of. So I feel like just, I don't know, knowing who I am, following my heart, knowing that what's to come for me is going to be so great and deserving too. Like knowing that I've put in the work on myself to be, you know, such a sound individual, which we all have things to work on at all times, don't get me wrong. But, you know, leading with the purest intentions and leading with just true genuinity in your life. You know, like I'm a big, like, not karmic person, but just how you treat people and what you put out into the world is going to be a product of what you get back. So just knowing that who I am as a person means that I have so much more to achieve in my life and so much more to look forward to. And I don't even know what that could be. I feel like I haven't even tapped into it yet.
Yeah.
do you feel like I like that you said finally, like, you're a solid person, because I feel like it's very rare for you to like say things like
I
that.
know.
And, like, say like,
But I am.
But that is like
there's definitely parts of myself, or even looking back and like I was, you know, a lost girl, or I didn't know myself, or, you know, I was acting out in ways that weren't authentic to me, but we all have those moments. And I feel like we're our own worst critic. Like, I am so hard on myself, and I know that that is something that I deeply need to work on. Like, that's my number one thing that I work on every day, like loving myself more and fully emerging myself to who I am, because I deserve it. And I mean, to anyone out there too, like, you know what you deserve, like, push the door, and don't ever sleep on yourself. You sleep on your potential. I think something that I would never ever do, because, you know, talking about it and boasting about it is like my language. Obviously, this isn't boasting, but you know what I mean? When you are so confident who you are, it's easy to kind of make that huge statement about yourself and stay about it 10 times maybe.
Cool. Back to Miami now. I'll probably just have to go catch.
Shut up.
Yeah,
Flying commercial probably in 30 hours.
They like come pick you up on like a limo line.
No.
Like take you to the
Literally 30 hours.